My name's Keith. I'm a meditation teacher. You might have guessed that. And these sessions are about introducing people to meditation, right? So we always do like a little intro into what meditation is in general, because we get a lot of first timers, which is fantastic. And then we kind of focus on a topic, right? We'll talk about a different topic and we'll investigate it, and then we'll do a meditation on it to kind of deepen our understanding of some of the things that we talked about. So that's the itinerary for today. And today's topic is about breaking bad habits. Maybe you don't have any of those. I got plenty. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, we're going to kind of introduce meditation in general for those that are new. Do we have any? We always get a decent number of new signups. If you're new, please ask questions throughout the whole thing. Don't worry about interrupting me. You just type in the chat, or if you're not comfortable doing that, you can comment on the video later. Or if you're super not comfortable doing that either, you can always email me, keith@meditationbreaks.com. I'll throw that in chat later. But you make use of the fact that this is a live stream. Ask questions. If you don't understand something, or if you've been struggling with something, ask, and I will literally interrupt whatever I'm doing and answer to the best of my ability. Okay. Hi Keith, thank you for offering this for those that are new to, this is like the whole goal, is to introduce this to people in a kind of fun, lighthearted way. So welcome, and hopefully you find this interesting and helpful. So meditation is a technique to familiarize yourself with something, all right? We normally kind of think of meditation as just like I'm zoning out, right? Like leaving it all behind and just kind of existing for a little while without thinking about anything. But meditation is relaxing in that way, but it's also about then using our kind of relaxed state to investigate something purposefully, right? That's the real power of meditation. Can you talk about proper posture to use when meditating? Do you lay down? Do you sit up? Do you cross your legs? That's a great question. So ultimately, you should do whatever is most comfortable for you. That's the number one thing to focus on with that particular question. And the goal, and the reason is because we want to start to realize that we don't have to change a lot to do this. We don't have to really change anything. We can do this however we feel most comfortable. Generally, I either sit or I have laid down, but sometimes I get sleepy. If you find you get sleepy, you might want to try sitting. But posture, you don't have to be too rigid, relaxed, but alert. The ultimate goal is to be comfortable, but not so comfortable that you start to have Z's coming out and falling asleep. Also, does it matter what time of day that you meditate? No. I actually did an entire class on that, but it's really whatever you're going to be able to stick to consistently, right? Because we want to start to build this as a routine. So if you're a morning person, you got some time before work, mornings, right? If you're not a morning person like me, you're rushing out the door, mornings might not be good for you. It might be better to do when you get home, something like that. We just want to find what works for us, both with posture and with timing. Thank you. Those are two really amazing questions. Okay, so meditation is familiarization, right? Which is really important for today, because we're talking about habits, which are familiarization with a particular thing. So we want to kind of do two things with meditation. We want to relax ourselves, and then we want to use our relaxed mind purposefully to investigate something, right? And today we're going to do bad habits. But you can investigate anything that you want, where your anxiety comes from, things that make you upset. We usually start to focus on those things. But you can investigate anything. That's why meditation is so, the breadth of it is like kind of, there is no limit really to what you can use it for. So when we're trying to relax, so you're like, well, why don't I just investigate something off the bat? Because when our mind is very busy, which it always is, we don't really think as clear as when it's super calm and relaxed. You've probably noticed this before. When you're in a panic, you're not really thinking that clearly. And we might not think we're always in a panic, but our mind is kind of always bouncing around. It's kind of like scattered, right? So our first goal is to relax our mind. And then when our mind is relaxed, well, we can start to see things a little more clearly, a little more objectively, maybe. So with breathing meditation, which is like the most common form, the goal is to relax. And that's what we're going to do here, quick, like 5 minutes, to kind of just set our mind up in a good place to think about something new, to think about new ways we can kind of combat our bad habits, right? And the way we do breathing meditation is through something called single-pointed concentration. Very fancy. All that means is focusing on one thing, not multitasking. Multitasking, not very good for being calm. Might be good for accomplishing work tasks, not really great for having a calm mind. We're like voluntarily inviting the bombardment of thoughts. So we're going to focus on one thing exclusively. And the thing we're going to focus on is our breath, you might have guessed. And the reason that we use our breath is because, again, we want to start to become familiar with the idea that we don't really need to change anything. We don't need special music. We don't need a special environment. We just need our breath to start to relax a little bit. And that's very key, a little bit. We're just going for a little bit more calm in our mind. Because even if we're just slightly more calm, we'll be able to think slightly more clearly about things. So that's our first goal, is to just kind of still the mind just a little bit, right? So if you've never done this before, it's pretty simple, like instructionally. You're just going to focus on your breath. You're going to follow along with what I'm saying. That's my job, is to kind of guide this. And you're just going to focus on your breathing. And then when you notice that your mind has drifted off, which it will, that's fine, just bring it back. We're going to bring it back to focusing on our breath. And we're going to do this kind of over and over again for about 5 minutes. And what we're going to see is over time, we're going to start to relax a little bit. We're going to sort of be like in the zone, like people are in the zone when they run or exercise or at work. And we're really, when you're in the zone, kind of that kind of cliche phrase, you're so focused on something that other things are fading away, right? You don't hear people calling your name. Maybe the twinge in your knee is not really bothering you anymore. We're going to do that intentionally. We're going to focus on our breath so much that our thoughts, our worries, our to-do list that's going on in our head is going to start to fade away into the background a little bit. Okay? So that's what we're going to do right now. Any questions on that before we go ahead and do that? I cannot answer questions when my eyes are closed. Part of this is closing your eyes. So if you do have a question, I will answer it afterwards. Okay. So sit comfortably. It's good. This is a good reminder of the question that was asked earlier. Sit comfortably. If you're laying down, fine. Lay down. Don't change. Don't get up. If you're sitting, great. Don't worry about it. Chair, cushion, really doesn't matter at all. Just be comfortable. We're going to start to be comfortable physically. That way we set ourselves up to be comfortable mentally as well. All right? So sit comfortably, a little bit of an alert position, right? We don't want to fall asleep if we can help it, though it's not the worst thing in the world. And close your eyes, and you're going to listen to what I'm saying. So when we start a meditation, the first thing we want to do is check in with ourselves. How are you doing? How are you feeling right now? Are you happy? Are you sad? Anxious? Neutral? Tired? Whatever it is, it does not matter. All that matters is you start to get used to checking in, to noticing what your mind is doing moment to moment. This is called mindfulness. So just notice what your mind is doing right now. And having checked in with ourselves, we can turn our full attention to our breath. We can breathe in and out gently through our nose. Very natural breaths. We do not need to take deep inhalations or forcefully exhale. Just breathe very normally in and out. See if you can follow your full in-breath and your full out-breath. In and out, very gentle. Allow yourself to relax. Allow yourself to enjoy breathing. Eventually, you may find your mind has wandered away, that it's no longer focused exclusively on your breath, but thinking about something that happened earlier, something you have to do later. Whenever you notice that, just gently guide your attention back to your breathing. Guide your attention back to enjoying your full breath in and enjoying your full breath out. And as we start to relax into our breath, we may notice some sensations of breathing that we hadn't paid attention to before. Maybe you notice how the air seems cool on your nostrils as you breathe in, and how it feels warm as you breathe out. We're starting to pay attention to breathing, to appreciate each breath. Keep bringing your attention back to your breathing as many times as you need to. This is meditation. You are meditating. You are training your mind to be calm, to relax, and you're doing it all on your own, with nothing other than your breath. How wonderful. So just follow your breath in and out for a little while longer. Enjoy it. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes, relax, return to our YouTube discussion. How'd that go? Kristen Fratz, hey Keith, I'm watching with Mom next to me. Hello, Mom. You're back. Welcome back. How'd that go? Any first timers? How'd that go? Everyone has a different experience with it. Sometimes it can be very difficult. And I've been doing this a long time, and there's times that it's very difficult. And the reason it's very difficult is because we're not used to doing it, right? We're not used to sitting here and kind of somewhat silence and focusing exclusively on our breath. We're used to doing as many things as possible simultaneously to maximize our production or something like that, right? So this is not normal for us. So it takes time. It's going to take time for us to build this into a routine to make this more normal. But if we can even relax just a little bit, a smidge, we can expand on that. We can do it more. We can do it more, and we can do it more until we're able to use our breath as a way of relaxing ourselves, even when we are really flustered, right? Which can be hard to implement this at first when we're really kind of panicked or anxious or upset. Rob, don't think about your to-do list. I am my to-do list. Well, our to-do list is just a mental thought, right? We give ourselves the to-do list. So yes, you are your to-do list. We have to stop identifying with the things that we are supposed to do, right? And start to identify with our ability to relax and separate from that a little bit. I say that jokingly, but that's the thing that keeps me grounded. That's good. That's good. Any questions on breathing meditation or meditation in general before we kind of get on to bad habits? I'm drinking so much water today. That's good. If you do have questions later on, you think of it later, just type it. It's fine. So today we're going to talk about habits. Bad habits, but like kind of habits in general, right? And we're going to kind of break this down into three things. We're going to talk about what a habit actually is, right? Kind of like do a deep dive on habits. Then we're going to talk about why they're so hard to reverse or break. And then we're going to talk about actually how to do that, right? 3 steps to start to retrain our mind to combat some of our habits that we want to change, right? I shouldn't say really bad habits because like everyone has a different view of what is like something they want to work on, but whatever. So habits are things you do habitually. That's it. Okay, class is over. You know everything. Things we do a lot, right? Things we do often. So there's no real deep secret to like habits on a surface level. We kind of know that, right? But there's 2 types of habits that we kind of engage in, right? So one are they're like physical habits, right? So checking the stove, like checking the stove. People check the stove, right? It's like a physical action. You're like checking the stove. Smoking was a bad habit. A lot of people trying to stop doing. These are physical habits. There's a physical action, right? But there's also mental habits, right? Road rage is a good one. Mental habit, right? You have a habit of getting angry when you're in your car. Anxiety is a mental habit, right? The interesting thing about these physical versus mental habits is that all physical habits actually come from mental habits, right? We've talked about this a little bit on this channel before, the difference between physical actions and mental actions. Like checking the stove is a physical action, right? You go down the stairs, you look to see if the stove is on, and you turn the dial if it's not. I mean, if it is, don't turn if it's not. But there's a physical action involved, right? But prior to you and going and doing that, there's the mental action, the thought, the stove. I have to check it, right? Everything we do, from walking to reading to talking to pushing up our glasses, everything, all those physical actions are necessarily preceded by mental actions. Mental actions come first. Without mental actions, we wouldn't be doing anything. We'd just be like this, right? Wouldn't be very fun. So mental actions are really important. And this is a really important concept when we're talking about how to work on our habits habits we want to change, because a lot of the times we don't think the root cause is from a mental habit. We think it's from a physical habit, but really the root cause is always from a mental habit, which is really kind of interesting in and of itself to think about, right? Habits are, they form from excessive familiarization, right? Right? We talked about familiarization before. Meditation is familiarization. That's why meditation is such a great tool for kind of rewiring our habits, is because habits are a intimate connection between our mind and, let's say, the thing we do, right? The activity, I think, so to speak, right? So like essentially we kind of come into contact with something, or we do an activity, or I don't know, checking the stove or whatever. I don't know why I give you, that's such a weird one. I should pick something that maybe more people connect with. I don't know, maybe a ton of people check the stove to make sure it's off. But like we check the stove, and then we like start to label checking the stove as like, we have to do this. If I leave the stove on, it's like going to be terrible, right? So we start to develop this mental link between stove and like panicked, so to speak, right? And then what happens is we reinforce this link through repetition, right? Every time we leave the house, now we're thinking about the stove, right? So, and it starts to become habitual, right? Habit forming. Crystal, nail biting is my bad habit. It's a good one. Really good one, right? So with nail biting, right? So you weren't born biting your nails, habitually, right? It's a learned behavior, right? All of these are learned behaviors, right? Do you ever think about how easy it is to get angry, right? You get angry like this. You can be having the best day ever, right? And somebody says something to you, and boom, you're like total reversal, right? It's not because you're an angry person. It's because you are very familiar with anger. We all are. We're all very familiar with it, right? We have a strong mental link with anger, and so it becomes a habit, right? It's easy for us to get angry because it's habitual. We're very familiar with it. I talked about this a lot. I got into meditation for anxiety, and one of the things that I was really anxious about, still am sometimes, is itching. Is that weird? Yeah, probably to you. Itching for you is quite neutral, right? But for me, and I'd feel an itch, and I'd be like, oh no, like how long is this going to last? Like I'm so uncomfortable, right? I'd start to wish it away. I wasn't born thinking itching is bad, right? This is a learned behavior. It's a learned mental response from repeating this, like reinforcing this mental connection between itching and bad, right? That's how anxiety forms, really. So I did that so much that it seems impossible for me to think of an itch as neutral, right? So this is kind of what habits are. They're just a deep familiarization with a response to something. Does that make sense? A deep familiarization with a mental response to something. Clarify that. So now that we kind of have a little bit of an understanding about what habits are and how they form, we think about why they're so hard to break, right? How come if we don't just like notice that this is a habit that maybe is bad, we can just kind of forget about it, right? And that's kind of the way that we handle it. We just try to forget about it, right? Do you think you could forget how to drive? Right? Like what's easier, learning a behavior or unlearning a behavior? Pretty much everyone here has probably been driving for a while. You think you could unlearn how to drive? Probably take a long time. I don't know. Maybe you'd get back in the car and remember a couple things about driving right off the bat, right? So like our current method of trying to deal with our bad habits is to unlearn them, right? So let's say we have like a bad habit of anxiety. I'm not going to do anxiety of like itching for me, right? So it'll feel an itch or whatever, and I'll start to think like this shouldn't be happening to me. Start to ruminate on it. I start to wish it away, and then what do I say? I just need to forget this. I just need to not think about this, right? You ever say that? Good question. I haven't drove all the quarantine, came back immediately. Yeah. Deep familiarization with the action of driving. So our response is like, I just need to not think about this, right? But the link between me and itching equals bad is so strong that I can't not think about it that way, right? It's akin to me trying to forget how to drive because of years of reinforcing this link between itching equals anxiety, itching equals bad, right? So is there another method that we can try? And I'm going to call it relearning, but I don't think that's a word. Is it a word? I have no idea. I wrote it here, and then I'm like, I don't think that's a word, but I'm going to leave it. But we're going to try a different method to break our habits, right? Instead of trying to break the old link, we're going to create a new one. We're going to create a new good habit and become so familiar with the good habit that the old one starts to fade into the background a little bit. Does that sound familiar? We just did that, right? We focus so much on our breathing that the thoughts that were bothering us are starting to fade into the background, right? So when we're trying to break a bad habit, this method is kind of not how we normally think about doing it. But it's actually quite effective, right? And so the new links that we're going to form, relearning is a word. Great. Okay. Thank you. Everyone knew that but me. Great. So the new links that we're going to try to form are based on what I'll call like opposing forces, right? Fancy, kind of sounds fun. But really, for every kind of response, there's a different response, so to speak. So for anxiety, right? We're very familiar with anxiety, right? Anxiety is totally worrying about the future. That's what anxiety is. It's an exaggerated fear of the future. So the opposing force for worrying about the future is living in the present moment, right? So if we are struggling with anxiety, that's our bad habit, like something we get anxious about constantly, right? We want to start to create a new link with being in the present moment. And we're going to be so focused on that. We're going to become so familiar with doing that and the benefits of doing that, that living outside of that fades a bit, right? It lessens. The old habit starts to lessen. That's what we want. Anger, right? We talked about like road rage or whatever. Patience is the opposing force of anger, right? Being okay at the current moment that this is happening doesn't mean don't change anything. It means just like we're not freaking out about it right now, right? So if we have a bad habit of getting angry, we want to start to make a mental link towards patience. We want to start to familiarize our mind with patience. Jealousy, the opposing force, is rejoicing in others' good fortune, being happy, genuinely happy for others. Maybe we're stubborn, right? Stubbornness is a good one. That's kind of a bad habit that we have. The thing we want to focus on there is what we kind of refer to in meditation as wisdom, essentially knowing we don't know everything. Like maybe the way that we think things aren't the way that they always are, right? And then, finally, if sadness, depression, disappointment, the opposing force for this is gratitude, right? Generally being happy for the people in your life, the things that you have. This is the new link that we would want to form, right? And with any of these are all mental, kind of bad mental habits: anxiety, anger, jealousy, stubbornness, disappointment, that kind of stuff. We want to become so familiar with the good habit, the good side, that the old one starts to fade. The old link starts to fade away. Does that make sense? Just from like instructional, like kind of like if you're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. That's all that we're looking for right now. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't thought about it that way. Cool. So how do we do it? All right. That's the next question. It all sounds good on paper. So how do we do this? How do we start forming these new links? Essentially, what we're talking about is how do we retrain our mind? Our mind is so, this is the way I react to this situation. How do we retrain that? Right. Step one is the most important step, which is why it's called step one, I suppose, is what I'll refer to as recognizing it's possible, right? Currently, we don't think we can do this. We don't think we can retrain our mind, right? Like for me with the itching, it's become so familiar, so natural for my mind to go there that I don't think it's possible for me to think any other way about it, right? That's how familiar we are with our habits, that we can't even really imagine the opposite, right? It just seems fixed. It seems permanent. It seems this is how it is, right? But familiarization, thankfully, our mind's ability to become familiar with something, it doesn't choose sides. It doesn't like gravitate towards, bad habits or something like that. Our mind is ready to learn whatever we want to teach it, right? Our mind is not naturally angry or naturally anxious or naturally upset or naturally stubborn or naturally sad. These are learned tendencies, learned connections between our mind and the thing that is causing that, right? In fact, actually, our mind is naturally peaceful. We're going to meditate on this exact thing, our mind being naturally peaceful. We're seeing that. We see that a little bit with breathing meditation. When we clear away some of the commotion, our mind starts to relax. It starts to go to its natural, relaxed state. So step one is recognizing that it's possible for us to do this. And honestly, you might be on this step for a really long time because it's the most important step. And if we don't recognize that it's possible to do this, well, then we're not going to really do it, or we're going to be like super hot and cold with it, right? So we need to recognize it's possible, right? So we have to sort of think about that. We're just going to contemplate that a little bit. Step two, once we start to gain a little conviction in the fact that we can do this, right, is we need to start to understand the benefits of the new link, right? This new link that we're forming, this new good habit that we're forming. If we believe something is valuable, we will naturally want to obtain it. You think that's true? Like okay, here's a dog bone. You see it? And here's a diamond. Which one do you want? Diamond, right? We know the value of a diamond, and so naturally we want it, right? Interestingly, if we were a dog, it would be opposite. We don't care about diamond, we care about dog bone. So it's like kind of what we think is valuable is subjective. Weird tangent I went off, but it's interesting. But essentially what we want to do is we want to begin to view this new good habit, this new mental link as a diamond. Based on your perception. Exactly. Yeah, totally. We need to view this goal that we have as like a diamond. We want it, right? We're going to put in effort to do it. One of the reasons why our bad habits are so hard to break is because we're not 100% convinced that they should be changed, right? We only really think that they're detrimental or bad when we start to see the negative impacts. You think that's true? Right? Like, let's say take road rage, right? That's an interesting one. Like sometimes we just this idiot, he cut in front of me, whatever, blah 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 blah, and like then we go on our life like he's wrong, blah blah blah. Like, but what if we got into an accident? I mean, man, I shouldn't have been angry, right? We see the negative outcome of our bad mental habit, right? But normally we're not thinking about the negative outcomes of it. So really what we need to start doing is we need to realize the benefits of the new link and the kind of like detriment of the old one, right? The benefits of the good habit, the detriment of the bad habit. Because if we believe that forming this new good habit is beneficial, then we'll do it. We'll have natural effort towards doing it, which is what we need. We need natural effort, right? It can't all be for us. We need to naturally want it, to view it as like a diamond. And to kind of understand the benefits of the new link, there's really 3 great ways we can do that. We can listen to people talk about the importance of patience and gratitude, right? We can read about that stuff. There's lots of things out there to read about some of the benefits of doing those things. And we can meditate on it, which is sort of like an internal Google search, right? It's an internal investigation where we ask ourselves, is this thing beneficial, right? We start to make some mental connections with it. So far, so good? We're almost done. And then we'll meditate on this. So step 1, we recognize it's possible. Step 2, we understand the benefits of the new link. It requires that we switch our thinking when angry. Otherwise, we get stuck in thinking we have a right to be angry about that. Yes. I mean, look, you have a right to think whatever you want, right? But I think a lot of the times we don't realize some of the negative outcomes of our actions until it's too late, until it's like, uh-oh, I really hurt somebody here, right? So the earlier we can start to think about these things, it'll move our mind away from them and onto something more beneficial to us. But yes, totally. So step 3, once we recognize that something's possible, thank you for the question. Recognize something's possible, understand the benefits of it. We need to start to form this link. We need to start to have a deep familiarization with this new good habit, this new good way of thinking, right? And this really comes down to 2 things, right? One is we need to meditate on it, right? And there's kind of 2 steps there. We need to, just like we did before, we're going to relax our mind, and then we're going to use that relaxed mind productively to investigate something. So we're going to investigate the thing that this habit we're trying to form. And we're going to think about, is this beneficial? What are the good things that will happen in my life if I start to do this? What are the bad things that might happen if I don't, right? So we just need to kind of use our kind of naturally clear and very brilliant mind to think about these things and gain some conviction, a deep familiarization with the new good habit and the benefits of engaging in it, right? But we don't meditate that much. We got a lot of things to do. We're very busy, okay? So we don't have a lot of time to, sit down and close our eyes and think about this stuff constantly. It'd be wonderful if we did, but we have, obligations and stuff. So we also need to kind of implement a strategy for what is kind of known in meditation as the meditation break, right? When we're not formally sitting down and meditating, right? So we have to kind of be vigilant to still work towards our goal when we're not meditating. And the 2 ways we're going to do this is by first setting an intention for the day. We had a whole class on that last week, right? So we want to set an intention to, let's say it's anxiety, like we're like totally living in worried about the future. So we want to set an intention to be present, right? At the beginning of the day, I'm going to do this, right? And maybe I'll, kind of fall off a little bit, but I'm going to get right back on there. We're going to set an intention, a goal. An intention is sort of like a compass, right? It reminds us of the path that we're trying to take. It reminds us of the direction that we want to take our life. And then the second thing we need to do during our meditation break, which I guess translates to normal life, is cultivate some mindfulness, right? We talked a little bit about this in the meditation, but mindfulness is like an alarm clock to look at our compass. It's a reminder about what our intention is and why we're doing this. A lot of times we hear mindfulness kind of equated with being present, right? Actually, mindfulness is our ability to monitor our mind moment to moment. And by doing this, if we are monitoring our mind moment to moment, where are we living? In the present moment, right? So there's like a little bit of a distinction there, but I think it's important. So we really want to get good at checking in with ourselves. And we don't do that normally. So you might have to like force it a little bit at first. Just set an alarm on your phone or something like that to remind yourself to check in and think about, am I being true to my intention, to my goal, to trying to form this good habit? Right? And by doing these steps, right, over time, we're going to notice that our mind starts to gravitate towards this new link. And it's becoming so much more familiar with the good habit that there's not as much room in our day, in our mind, for the old one. That's the concept. And again, it sounds familiar because we just did it with meditation, right? We're so used to thinking about a million things. When we focus on one thing, the a million things start to fade a little bit. And yeah, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some practice. But we can see that it's possible through doing even something as basic as a breathing meditation. And then we can start to extrapolate that into areas in our life that we want to improve using the exact same method. Does that make sense? Sound cool? Hopefully. Okay. So, any questions on this before we're going to do a meditation, and the meditation we're going to do is sort of based on the step one, realizing it's possible, right? This meditation is all about realizing that our mind is naturally peaceful. And if our mind is naturally peaceful, what is it not? It is not naturally angry. It is not naturally anxious. So if we can gain some conviction in this, we know it's possible to get our mind back to its natural state. That's the goal. Okay? So this is, we're going to start pretty much the same way. We're going to do a breathing meditation, and then I'm going to guide what's kind of formally known as a contemplation. Just listen to what I'm saying and think about it. Follow along. That's it. That's your job. My job is to lead it. Okay, good. Any other questions you have, I'll answer them after we do this. But let's get going. All right. Okay. So again, sit comfortably. Yay. Relax. Yay. And close your eyes. Let's check in with ourselves once again. How are you feeling now? Different? The same? Whatever it is, just notice. We're practicing mindfulness, practicing noticing what our mind is doing moment to moment. And having checked in with ourselves again, we can turn our attention back to our breath. Back to breathing in and out through our nose, very gently, very naturally. We follow our full breath in, and we follow our full breath out. Allow yourself to relax, to enjoy breathing, to enjoy sitting here in this moment. Maybe you notice your mind has drifted away onto something else. When you notice this, just gently guide your attention back to your breath, back to following your full breath in and following your full breath out. We can start to feel ourselves becoming present with our breath. We start to notice things about our breathing that we hadn't noticed before. The cool air as we breathe in, the warm air as we breathe out. Our shoulders rising gently as we breathe in and falling as we breathe out. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath whenever it drifts away. This process of focusing on your breath and bringing your attention back to it when it drifts is meditation. You are a meditator. How wonderful. How wonderful that you are taking time out of your day to train in relaxation. Just keep following your breath for a little while longer. As we single-pointedly focus on our breathing, we may notice ourselves feeling a little more calm, even just a little bit, a little more relaxed, a little lighter. Whatever your experience is, when you notice it, just sit with that experience, appreciate it, recognize that you are able to relax all on your own. These feelings are your naturally peaceful mind shining through, letting you know that it's there. Our mind is sort of like a messy room. When we clean our room or our home, we often find things that were obscured by the mess, by the clutter. Our mind is the same way. When we clear our mind of our cluttered thoughts, we find something amazing about the mind itself. We discover that our mind is naturally peaceful, naturally calm, naturally reasonable, clear. Meditation does not create peace. It reveals what has been there all along, waiting for you to tap into it, waiting for you to tap in to your naturally peaceful mind. And if our mind is naturally peaceful, peace is its default state, then its default state cannot be anger, it cannot be anxiety or jealousy or stubbornness or sadness. our mind is naturally peaceful. And so we can train in accessing that. We can gravitate towards our naturally peaceful mind and away from these negative learned habits. Just sit with this for a little while. Think about it on your own for a little while. Let the investigation that you've made and the words that I've said sink in. Just sit with it. Okay. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and relax. Maybe you're relaxing while you're doing that. This is a different type of relaxation. How did that go? So that is a, we start pretty similar, right, to breathing meditation. All meditation starts the same way. We relax, right? So we use breathing meditation to relax our mind. And then we use that relaxed mind productively to investigate something. And right there, we were investigating kind of the realization that our mind is naturally peaceful because we can get it there just by focusing on our breath, just by using that technique, right? And so if we start to gain conviction in the truth that our mind is by default very peaceful, very calm, we start to recognize that if that's true, then it's not naturally angry or naturally anxious or naturally any of those other things that are bothering us, right? Those are learned connections in our mind, and we can make new connections to replace them. That's what that meditation is designed to do. Your gems of wisdom are so good, and I had to start a meditation notebook to write them all down. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you to say, Crystal. It's been wonderful having you here. Yeah, having a notebook is really good. Like, I mean, we talk about a lot of different things here, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, all the different things we talk about. So like you might be in a situation where like, oh yeah, I think I remember hearing something about that. So it's good to like go back to some of your notes and remind yourself. Because we need reminders because this is all very new to us, right? Now I have notes on types of meditations, breathing, 5 senses, body scan, counting, mountain and river. Wow, you got the whole shebang there, huh? That's amazing. Good for you. That's great. I wish I was a better note taker. That has been one of my downfalls since I was a wee lad. Any questions or comments on anything that we did today, whether it's the breathing meditation or the kind of how we deal with habits? Let me know. And like I said, if you think of something later, it's great. You can comment on the video and I'll answer it. Or if you want to, let me just bring up my little website. My email is on here, keith@meditationbreaks.com. You can ask me anything, anytime. Okay. We think you should listen to all your sessions and write down a book. Maybe one day. So if you've enjoyed this time together, McJeebers, nope, just wanted to say thank you for helping me find some chill every week. Vixen also says thank you. McJeebers, thanks for being here. You guys have been great friends, and it's been awesome having you here. I'm glad that you've taken away some benefit from this. So thanks for that. If you've enjoyed this, come back next week because we do something different every week. And maybe you don't really like have too many bad habits. I don't know. great. But maybe next week you'll connect with something that we're going to say there. So come back and bring a friend. That's always cool for me. And if you want to, you can subscribe to this channel. Basically, it just kind of gives you a reminder that I'm doing this every Wednesday, in case you forget. So that's good. And that's helpful for me too, because it lets YouTube know, that the crazy YouTube algorithm know that people are interested in this, which is good. And if you are really into this and you want to, pursue meditation maybe more seriously, or do like a deeper kind of dive into a specific thing that you're dealing with, I do private instruction, which is great because we can really focus in on exactly your anxieties, not itching like mine. So if that's interesting to you, there's information on that on my website. I do it all remotely. One-on-one is $25. So that's kind of a cool thing that we could do together to expand your practice. And I also do corporate events. You want to be the cool meditation person at work? You could bring me in and we'll do a session for everyone. I do that virtually. Everything's virtual now. And that's pretty much it. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this. You found some benefit to this. A big thank you from me to you for being here. Everyone has very busy lives, and it's very cool that you are dedicating time out of your busy life to be here with me and learning about this and trying something new. It's really admirable, and I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. So thank you for being here. And I hope you guys have a great week. All right, we're starting to break our bad habits together. And come back next Wednesday. We'll do something new. Okay. All right. Have a good one.